And welcome back to Backspace Academy. We already know quite a bit about Amazon S3. We know how to create a bucket. We know how to host a website from that bucket. In this hands-on lecture, I'm going to run through versioning of buckets. So applying version control to a bucket so that we can go through old versions of an object and recover that version, or even go through objects that are deleted and recover those deleted objects. I'll also look at lifecycle rules that we can apply to an S3 bucket. And by doing that, we can, based on a rule, migrate our data after a period of time over to Amazon S3 Infrequent Access or Amazon Glacier Archiving. And that helps us to reduce our costs. I'll also look at putting expiry on objects so that after a period of time, they can be removed from our account. And that would be both S3 and Glacier. Okay, so just starting off at the S3 Management Console, I'm just going to grab a bucket here that I've already created, and it's just got a cloud formation template inside it. So what I'm going to do is look at the properties of it for starters. And so I've got here versioning is enabled on this bucket. So we just click on that, and we can see here we can suspend or enable versioning on this bucket. So that's as simple as that, how we enable versioning. It's not a particularly difficult thing to do. So we just click on save and our versioning is now enabled. So what does that do for us? So what we can do now is we can have a look at the different versions of this object. So you can see there that I've changed it a few times, and I can go back and I can download this, or I can delete old versions, or sorry, I can delete new versions to get back to an older version if I want in my console there. So how does that work? So I just go into here and we can have a look here and delete this object. So we delete that object and we're just going to delete it now. So that's gone. So the bucket is now empty, but in reality it's not empty because it's got old versions of an object in there. So we're just going to deleted objects and we can see there it is. So all we need to do is click on that, go into more and undo our delete. Undo delete. And so now when we go into all there, we've got our CloudFormation template has just been restored back into our bucket. So that's how easy it is to enable versioning and to recover a deleted object, and also to go through, for example, if we go through here and look at old versions and download old versions and even revert to another version. So this is how we do it on the new Management Console, which has only come out in 2017. And there was another way of doing it. So I'll just go back to the Amazon S3 service and we can go to the old console here. So switch to old console. And this will probably be around for quite some time, I think. So it's a good idea to understand how it used to work in the past. So let's go back to our Backspace DynamoDB CloudFormation bucket there that we've got. So we can click on that. And there we can see we've got our CloudFormation template. So if I look on that, and I click on that, I can click up here, we've got versions. And I can show the versions that are available there. So there we have the different versions, and I can actually revert to one of those different versions if I like. So it's very similar to before, but I think the new system is a lot better, and Amazon have obviously created a new user interface to make life easier for us and to make life a bit easier to understand. So just going back to our bucket now, so if we delete our object inside of that bucket, so I'll just go into hide to hide versions. So I'm just going to delete that now. Okay, so now our bucket is empty as before, and I just have to go into here and do show on versions, and I'll just click on refresh on the screen. Okay, so when we refresh the screen, we can see there now that we have marker here. So this is our delete marker. And so what that means is that if we delete our delete marker, we basically return or we restore that deleted object. So if I just click on this delete marker here, and if I delete that, so that delete marker is now gone. And if I go back to the bucket and click on hide, we can see there that our object has been recovered. So it's a little bit different to the new way, but I think the new way is a lot better. So that's all I need to show about versioning. Pretty straightforward, just apply versioning to a bucket, and then you can go back to different versions, download them if you want, or revert to an older version by deleting the current version from your console. So now we'll just go back to the new console and we'll talk about lifecycle rules. So we go back into our bucket, and we see there we've got our file that's been restored from it being deleted, so it's been restored from version control. So if we go into management here, and then we can see here we can add a lifecycle rule. And just have a look at the little message we've got here. So we can use lifecycle rules to manage your objects. You can manage an object's lifecycle by using a lifecycle rule which defines how Amazon S3 manages objects during their lifetime. We can automate our transition to a tiered storage, so we can use a combination of Amazon S3, Infrequent Access S3, or Amazon Glacier, and we can make it tiered, so over a certain period of time we go to more long-term storage. We can also look at expiring our objects, so after a certain amount of time they're actually removed, and we can also look at putting in rules to clean up objects that are not being used in our bucket. So let's create a life cycle rule. So just give it a name, so I'm just going to call it whatever. So it's going to call backspace rule, that'll be fine. I'm not going to put any prefixes in there, but if you wanted to do that, you can do that. And we just click on next. So what we've got here is that we can apply a transition, and what that does, it transitions the objects inside of this bucket to somewhere else, be it either S3 Infrequent Access, or it transitions to Amazon Glacier. So for example, if we've got a website, for example, and we want to keep track of old versions, but we don't want to basically pay for that too much, but we want to have the old versions available in long-term storage. So we can get our old versions here, and after a period of time, so we just add a transition, and so we're going to transition to Amazon Glacier after, say, 7 days. So we've got an old version there, and we've rolled out our website, and within that 7 days we see that there's a problem. We can always roll back to that previous version in Amazon S3, but after 7 days we'll have to get it from Amazon Glacier. So that enables us to reduce our costs significantly, and at the same time not lose versions of objects. We can also look at transitioning our current version to Amazon Glacier. So you might want to do that if you've got logs going into a bucket. So those logs might not be too relevant to you, or you might not really need to use them that often after, say, 30 days. So you might want to transition those to Amazon Glacier after 30 days. And then that will help you again to reduce the cost, and you don't get a bucket that is being filled up with log data. So that's what we've got there. So we'll just click on next. Now the next one is expiration. So we can apply an expiration rule to our objects in our bucket. So again, for example, if we have a logging function, or something that is recording logs and putting them into our bucket, and after a year maybe we don't really want to keep those logs anymore. So we can set up with our current versions, after 365 days, so that's 1 year, we can expire those. And we can also look up cleaning up incomplete multi-part uploads. So we've done an upload and it hasn't been completed, but it's quite old. We can look at cleaning up those at the same time after 7 days. So if a upload hasn't been done after 7 days, it will clean it up automatically for us. And we can also look at previous versions here. And we can do the same with previous versions. So we can permanently delete previous versions after a period of time. So let's move on from there. So there we can see we've got our backspace rule set up, and we've got a transition for previous versions of objects. They're going to transition to Amazon Glacier after 30 days. We've also got an expiration after 365 days, and we can permanently delete after 395 days. And then we're also going to clean up incomplete multi-part uploads after 7 days. So that's quite a good lifecycle rule, and that's how you would apply that. And we just click on save, and that will happen. So there's our lifecycle rule that has been set up to transition based on a number of rules to Amazon Glacier. And also, after a period of time, to remove or expire objects after a year. So just before we finish up on this hands-on lecture, I just want to show some of the other features of an S3 bucket. So we've talked about versioning, we've talked about static website hosting previously. We can also talk about logging. So what logging is that we can set up access log records that provide details about access requests to this bucket. So if we click on that, we can enable logging, and by enable logging, we then select a target that these logs are going to go to. We can also enter a target prefix if we want, so that we can find these log entries quite easily for this specific bucket if the bucket is going to contain multiple logs from multiple buckets. So let's cancel out of that. We can also look at using tags, and if we apply tags to the objects in this bucket, then what that means is that we can track costs based upon those tags, which gives us more defined reporting out of our costing. So we can look at putting tags on here. So again, we just add a tag for whatever it is. So it could be whatever department, and then the value could be development, for example, and we can add that tag. And so then when we go in doing our reporting on costs, we can search for a key called department. And cross-region replication, so we can automate copying of objects from this current region to different regions. So I'll just click on that, and so we can enable cross-region replication here. And so we look at our region that we're looking at, our source region and our destination region. We've also got transfer acceleration, which is, I think it came out in late 2016, which is another way that we can speed up transfers to and from our bucket. It costs more for us to do that, but it provides us a faster service. And it does that by using the edge locations of the Amazon network to do that. So a little bit like CloudFront, but in reverse. Another thing we can look at is events, and for you developers, we have a very good lab on using Lambda. So we actually use an S3 event that triggers when an object goes into a bucket, and that will send a notification to Lambda to invoke a Lambda function to process that file that's gone in there. So there are a number of different events that we can use. So I just click on here, add a notification. And we can see reduced redundancy lost object. We can do put, post, copy. Whenever those sorts of events come up on an object, it will trigger an event. When an object is deleted and when an object is created, we can also trigger an event. And that event could go to an SQS queue to be processed by an EC2 instance. It could also go to an SNS message, or it could go to Amazon Lambda as well. And here we can see we can send it to an SNS topic, an SQS queue, or a Lambda function. And we also have requester pays. So if you enable requester pays, the requester will be paying for the requests and data transfer. So just cancel on that. So that's pretty well all I need to talk about as far as the main features of Amazon S3, and certainly well and truly what you need to know about for an associate level certification. I'll look forward to you in the next lecture on S3 policies.